All right, fellas, let's talk about metal mixing 201. And I think the very first step whenever we start talking about metal or electronic music is this way, most modern rock is this way, really most what I'm going to call modern genres. If you're not doing Johnny Cash and things like that, then this applies to you, is that we are now in the sound design business. Everything that we do is about shaping and manipulating this audio on a level that you purists, the real natural guys, like just put a mic on, put a 57 on that Marshall cab and we're done. That can happen, and when it does, you celebrate and you go, yeah! And you should always strive for that in tracking. Once we get to Mixland, all bets are off. We're going to process the living crap out of this. And I'm really big with metal. There's a handful of things, I guess, concepts that took me a while to get a hang of, or at least accept on like a philosophical level. One of those is I should abuse most of my plugins. And this is something very common and encouraged in analog land. You see red lights and you go, yeah, overload that crap, slam that 1176. In fact, let's not just use 20-to-1 ratios. Let's push all 4 buttons in for maximum crushing. And that's even guitar sounds themselves, when we do those kind of guitar sounds, the amount of gain we've done is staggering. I mean, that's such a deviation from whoever, Leo Fender and Les Paul and all these guys that were doing their guitar things in the 50s and stuff. I mean, that we've really pushed things to the edge. And I think audio engineering is right in line with all that, of just abusing everything. And that is the sound. It's been the sound in rock and metal for probably since the 70s, actually. So get used to over-processing and heavy-handed in things. Now, compression and things of that sort. Now, obviously, there's always a too much. And so for you guys who are naturally inclined to go way too far, well, you need to not listen to me, and you need to be using less. But that's the tricky part of this whole gig, is trying to figure out when someone says that don't over-process. Well, no kidding. How that applies to you is a tricky gig. But I will say that when we're doing our compression, we're doing EQ, we're doing whatever we need to do with metal, you're often going to be doing a lot of things that deviate highly from the original tracking. So keep that in mind as we jump into this. And the other thing I like to do with metal production in particular is work fast. And this may really apply to everything. But there's something about whenever the bass is a little bit like just not good sounding. Just a second ago, I slapped a multiband compressor on this thing, and I'll get to this here in a minute. But I really don't want to get into that detail just yet. But I got the sound in like 10 seconds because I didn't overthink it, and the meters are all over the place, and they're saying, "Holy crap, you're really knocking out a ton of whatever it was, 800 or 600 or something." But the point is just bam, 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 go, go, bold, bold, bold. And then what we'll do is we'll stop, we'll render the damn thing down, we'll eat lunch, relax, clear our head, and then we'll listen to a different set of speakers, and then see where we are. All this nickel and diamond, like, I'm going to hear this at my 0.1 decibel. It's such a waste of time. It doesn't do anything. And so if you mix long enough, I mean, there are times, I guess, when subtlety comes into play, but for the most part, you're either going to hit him in the head with a sledgehammer or you won't. Lightly hitting with a sledgehammer is still hitting him with a sledgehammer.